Hello everybody. How are you doing today? I hope you're having a good day. It's another day that God has allowed you to be alive and able to do things. If you're sitting there on your computer, you can share messages like this. You can share religious thoughts with others. And you can do that and not hide your religion. The title of our lesson today is simply, I Hate Religion. And so, that may sound strange coming from a preacher of all people, but give me a few moments of your time and perhaps you will also hate religion, at least the kind that I'm going to describe. See, religion, for the purpose of this discussion, is simply something a person believes in and follows devotedly. That's pretty much what Webster says in the dictionary. So, based upon this definition, one could have a religion based on anything the mind can imagine. And we see a lot of minds have been at work. So there's many religions in the world today. Yeah, some of the major ones might be Muslim, Jewish, Christian, atheism. That's also a form of religion, even though they deny having any religion at all. But then there's some other non or obscure type religions. NASCAR for millions of people is a religion. Hunting is a religion. Trucks are a spiritual thing. Remember the commercial years ago. And just whatever someone wants to put their focus on. We're talking about idolatry here, of course, but that's what it is. And so people make these their religion. So, based on this definition, let me clarify what kinds of religion we should hate. Yeah, because obviously we don't hate them all, and that would just be rude and unfair. But there should be only one religion that we practice. And let us notice some kinds of religion that some may be guilty of practicing. In fact, if we're not aware of this, it could be we might be doing the same thing. So that's why we have to take warning and consider these things. See, there's a self-made religion. This is the kind of religion that we make up for ourselves. We do this when we cut and paste the things and teachings that we like. We grab some from the Bible, from other religions, from our own personal desires, and so forth. And this is basically like a religious art science project where we gather and assemble the pieces and put them together however we see fit and then present it to others as our religion, our belief. See, the only problem with art science projects is that they are usually mere representations of reality. See, for example, the volcano we made in elementary school wasn't an actual volcano. At least to the relief of everyone else who entered the contest, as well as everyone with a 10-mile radius of the eruption. And our self-made religion isn't real either. In fact, it is counterproductive, harmful, dishonest, and unacceptable to God. See, Colossians 2:16-23 talks about the self-abasement, the self-made religion, and the philosophies that we want to pick and choose from and want to go by. Some people like some of the writings of Confucius and some of the sayings of Confucius. And there might even be some things that evil people have said in the past that, okay, makes sense, it's logical. And so they adopt these into their own self-made religion. Now, something similar to that is self-deceiving religion. This can happen because this kind of religion that we have practiced for so long, we've begun to believe that is actually true. So despite the fact that we know it not to be, it isn't that we are stupid people who don't realize that our religion is phony. And, well, maybe some actually are, but if we're being fair or honest. But no, we would simply prefer not to be reminded of that fact. Because this, after all, is the religion that we want. It's an example of this. I actually am, like someone might say, actually am a superhero, like Batman. But you know what? Pure and undefiled religion is described there in James 1:26 and 27. And he warns us not to be this way. Now, honestly, many of those in the denominations fall under this category because as they study, if they do study their Bible at all, they'll find out there's some things that their church is not doing properly or not doing right, but yet they enjoy their church so much they're not going to bring it up or make any issues out of it. So they are being self-deceived. And first or Second Thessalonians 2, 10 through 12 talks about these people. God's going to allow them to believe the lie. Why? Because they don't love the truth enough to pursue it and to obey it. All right. Another kind of religion is empty religion. You know, this is a religion that doesn't mean anything to the person who claims to practice it. See, these people are going through the motions for some reasons, but there's no meaning to it. I mean, maybe they do it to please other people, like their parents or something, or maybe they do it for the potluck fellowships, what they can get out of it. And whatever their reasons might be, this religion is worthless to them. And sometimes we hear people referring to themselves as non-practicing. Well, I'm this, but I'm not active or not practicing it right now. And just fill in the blank whichever you want. I'm a non-practicing. Yeah, we've heard this said about Muslims, Buddhists, Hindus, Christians, Catholics. Just the list goes on and on. See, this is religion is like the springs without water, 2 Peter 2:17, or clouds without rain. In other words, there's something, it looks hopeful, but there's nothing there. And it's a big disappointment. See, if it helps, they are just dressing up like Batman and not actually fighting crime. They're just pretending. And if you watch the reruns of Batman, you would realize nobody ever got hit and nobody hit anybody. But the bad guy still fell down. And so we see this in the self-made religious philosophies of empty religion. And then here's one which probably affects many Christians more than the others. Compartmentalized religion. That's a big word. Compartmentalization. It's separating things into and putting things and organizing things into different areas and putting them in the boxes or the bins or the chutes, however you want to describe that. This is the religion that fits nicely into one part or area of our lives, but we never allow it to affect us as a whole person. See, we actually make the effort to not allow religion to cross over into other areas of our life, our personal life, our recreational life, our business life. We want to keep religion in its own little category. And it may not be self-made or empty, but it is equally useless. In actuality, we may be very excited about our religion when we compartmentalize it. That way we can put it in a certain place and let it stay there, and it doesn't have to bother us the rest of the time. Like Sunday morning. Oh, yeah, we go. We're excited about our religion on Sunday morning, but the rest of the week, it doesn't bother us. It doesn't affect us. We just go about our lives the way we want. See, that's what's the problem and danger of compartmentalized religion is. And so, after all, if we only participate in the encouraging, self-serving parts of our religious faith instead of actually living it out every day, I suppose it might seem like something to get excited about, maybe once a week, twice a week, once a month maybe. How about just once a year? Does it really matter? God talked about the people in Amos chapter 4 and chapter 5 and chapter 6, how aimless they were and how they had basically separated their actual lives from their religious life. And so, take a chance to read Amos 4, 5, and 6 and see if that isn't so. Okay, another type of religion is hypocritical religion. Oh, here we go again, the preacher talking about hypocrites. And why are you so bothered about this? Well, this is the worst one, right? Well, we say this is the worst one, and yeah, it's deceptive. And of course, all sin is deceptive, and those who practice sin are deceived. And this goes beyond everything we've looked at so far, doesn't it? Well, this is a person who is actively pretending to be a Christian. In other words, these are the people who are responsible for emptying the church pews, right? What is the number one reason people give for either leaving the church or never becoming part of it? Those hypocrites. So anyway, so if they choose to stay away from church because of those hypocrites, yeah, we know what's going to happen. They're going to end up in hell with them all. But anyway, whether this is a legitimate excuse for those people or not, and by the way, it isn't legitimate because they really haven't. That's just something they heard and they just decided that sounds good enough for them. See, hypocritical religion is something that we all should hate, especially when we see it in ourselves. Claiming to be a faithful child of God, but yet knowing in our hearts we're really not. We just kind of want to make people think good things about us. And so this is the equivalent of someone turning on the bat signal only to find out that the guy who shows up is obesely overweight, never works out, and couldn't care less if you get mugged. Just not really the type of crime fighter you would expect. So, and so even Jesus talked about this kind of empty religion. So, now the reasons we should hate these kinds of religion, and let me clarify why we should hate these that we've been discussing. See, they are the enemies of true spirituality. We will never actually be the kind of people God wants us to be until we know what that looks like and then decide that that's what we want to be. When we desire anything less, we basically say to God, I don't really want what you're offering. Or maybe we'll say, I think I have a better idea. And doesn't this describe a lot of people you know? Some say, well, this just simply won't work. Or make up your own response if you want to. Something like, well, I don't want to be a part of religion because they're too restrictive. They don't let me have my fun, or they don't let me do what I want to do. And that's why they hate organized religion. We hear that a lot. The downplaying of organized religion. And really, the reason they do that, because whatever that religion is, no, there's certain things you're not allowed to do. Of course, in our world today, there's so many out there that, yeah, pretty much you can do whatever you want to do. You just have to search around till you find someone who's going to let you do it. And so that's why we should do it. But yes, they are enemies of spirituality. They are enemies of true spiritual growth. See, one of the drawbacks of these different perversions of religion is that we don't get to experience genuine spiritual growth. We just get by with what we think we can handle, and we don't have to pursue any more knowledge. We don't have to pursue any more spirituality. We don't have to pursue spiritual growth. So, one of the trademarks of a true disciple is constantly learning and growing, 2 Peter 3:18. And then, of course, constantly adding to our faith that we read in 2 Peter 1, 5 through 11. And so, this trademark of a true disciple is conspicuously and quite obviously missing from those who are faking it. And these people are the enemies of evangelism. If you haven't noticed, those who aren't Christians, the lost, they're usually not super excited to learn about the religions that we described above. It's just basically the lost recognize these are all false religions, and they won't get anybody to heaven. If they really want to go to heaven, they're going to find a true religion. And so if you and I haven't had anyone ask us about our faith recently, it may be because we don't really have one, or we have not demonstrated it in public. Folks, that's something you need to consider. 1 Peter 3:15, that happens when we sanctify the Lord Jesus in our hearts. And then have to be ready to give an answer of the hope that's in us. All right, so if nobody has asked you about your faith, you're probably not demonstrating faith, and you're probably not living it in your life. All right, so maybe we have traded in for something else, like anything the world offers, or maybe we have just compartmentalized our faith and just put it and only bring it out at certain times. See, true evangelism requires true religion on the part of the evangelist, which, by the way, is every Christian. Every Christian has a responsibility. We're called a royal priesthood for a reason. We're to teach people about God. We do that through our example, and we do it through our words, and yes, by the way we live our lives. So that's what we're supposed to do. We are all, every one of us who is a child of God is an evangelist. Now, the only question is, what kind of spiritual guidance are you giving the world around you? What kind of spiritual lessons are you teaching those around you? That's what we need to consider. Now, these people are also cleverly disguised and cheap substitute for true discipleship. Yeah, they go to church, they act and behave, they claim I'm a faithful whatever you want to fill in the blank with. And see, I'm not sure how Satan convinced so many of us that our man-made religions were going to be good enough to please the Lord. But we were fools to believe it. When Jesus talked about this in Matthew 7:21, not everyone who says, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but he that does the will of my Father. Then later on, he's talking about the two types of soil. The one who receives my word is like the one who establishes on the rock, and the house will stand. The one who doesn't keep my sayings is one who builds his house on the sand, and it's destroyed. So, Jesus makes it crystal clear what he expects from us, and we should know better than to think that, something like church attendance equals discipleship. Folks, if you think that, you are mistaken. Church attendance does not equal discipleship. Or youth trips equal discipleship. A lot of people, a lot of them have church camps and they have things like that, and they have youth trips, which are supposed to get everybody on the same page. That's not discipleship either. That's just going out and having fun and games. And so, anyway, we've got to learn these things. What does it take to become a true disciple is one who dedicates and focuses themselves to be like the master. And the people we've described so far are not anywhere close to being like Jesus. They don't want to be like Jesus. They're satisfied just to be themselves. Now, when we talk about all these religions, God hates them. God hates them terribly, and we should too. And so when we read passages like the one in Amos, we see that God feels just as strongly about these cheap imitations of religion as we are supposed to. If God hates something, you know what? Maybe we should pay attention to what that something is and make sure we're not doing that. There's a lot of things in the scripture where God says, this is an abomination before me. I hate this. God doesn't tolerate darkness or sin, and he doesn't even want to look at it. And so we have to work to make sure we're not involved in these things. And we also need to work to warn others about it, because others are involved in it. And yes, we need to warn them about it. Now, what's going to happen? Well, you're just a religious nut is usually going to be the response, or some sort of retort like that. So, but we have to be facing it. We have to warn people. And so we see that. So how do you feel about these false imitation religions now? Do you hate them as much as I do? Do you hate them as much as God does? So do you hate them enough to do something about them in your own life, first of all, if necessary, and so that you can help others with the same struggles. You know, if we see a child running towards a busy road, what are we going to do? We're going to holler, we're going to make noise, we're going to run to try and stop that child from running out into the street, right? Yeah, we're going to take whatever measure we can. But, I mean, let's put it this way. Someone quoted a statement about many years ago. A preacher said, if you were walking along and saw a drunk laying on the railroad track asleep and you knew the express train was about to come through, what would you do? And most of the response was, well, we'd wake him up and try and get him to move, or we'd drag him off the tracks. And then the preacher responded, well, people who are lost are on the tracks right now. What are you going to do about it? I mean, that kind of makes a point, folks. So what are we going to do about this? I mean, we have to start with ourselves, and then we need to teach others the best we can. So consider those thoughts. That's our lesson for today. And Lord willing, we'll be back again with another lesson. Bye-bye for now.